So those of you who are observant, or really any of you who have watched any of the tone chapters of our tutorials lately, have probably noticed that my board has changed quite a bit. In the very beginning, I was basically using modeling software just because of the way my studio is set up. Eventually went into this really big, kind of overdone board because I was using it not just for this, I was using it for other things as well. And so it was kind of probably more complicated than it needed to be. It's taken me a while, but I have pared it down and really gotten to what I feel like are the main key components that you need to play this style of music. And so I wanted to just give you a little walkthrough of the different pedals that you see on my board. I'm going to go into some more kind of in-depth single pedal tutorials, but this is just kind of an overview of the board, kind of the effects that are really helpful. You don't need them all, but they're really helpful if you're going to be playing in a worship band. So let's go ahead and take a look here. So my signal chain goes like this. My guitar goes into my tuner, which everybody should have on their board. All right. It comes out of the tuner through the Robert Keeley Compressor Plus, which I love. I can't wait to do a little more detail on that. Then goes through the Westminster Effects E89, which is a dual overdrive, then through the volume pedal, and then into the preamp of the amplifier. So that's where your tubes are. That's where all the sound is. Okay. Then it comes out of there, so it goes into the effects loop. It comes in through the organizer, which is an octave pedal. Then it goes through the Capistan D-tape echo, which is more of a tape delay. Finally to the dispatch master, and then returns essentially to the speaker of the amplifier. So that is the pathway for each one of those, for where the signal is going. Now quickly, let's take a look at each one of those effects. We're not going to spend any time on the tuner. You should know what a tuner is. If you don't have a tuner, go out and buy a tuner. That's like the #1 thing that you should have. Okay. Let's talk about the compressor for a moment. Now, I have not been a fan of compressor. I've been playing for 25 years and I've never owned a compressor. And only recently did I really start realizing, man, I really need one of these. And part of it was because I just couldn't find the right one. A lot of times I'm not a big fan of the Nashville kind of over compressed sound. I like for there to be some body, but the compressor just gives me a little bit more control. So when Keeley came out with one that actually had a blend knob, but still had all the Keeley components, which Keeley was always my favorite. I like the SP compressor by Exotic Effect as well, but I just liked the Keeley tone a little bit better. However, once again, it didn't have a blend knob, so it always kind of kept me away from it. However, they came out with a price, they came out with a good Compressor Plus with a blend knob at the right price of around $130. So real quick, I'll just show you what this does. Essentially, it takes your signal and it makes kind of the low parts get a little louder and it makes the loud parts get a little quieter. So it gives a little more of an even tone. So let's hear how that sounds. Here it is. Here's my signal without any compressor. Adding the compressor, now I was just doing a song that actually really utilized that compressor sound, so let's back off the blend a little bit and kind of quiet it down so we can get it kind of more where I usually sit with it. Helps kind of tame some chords if I don't want them to get away from me. So that is essentially what a compressor does. Now, the next pedal that we're going through is that E89 by Westminster Effects. It's a combination of an Edwards overdrive and their 1689 overdrive. And if you actually listen to our podcast about overdrive, you'll hear all about it. However, real quick, I just want to show you the differences between these two overdrives. On the left-hand side, this is your basic tube screamer. Have the tone rolled off a little bit and get kind of wild. that with a compressor and it actually does a nice job. Great for lead work. So that 1689 side is more of that tube screamer tone. The Edwards side is more of a, I'll turn off that compressor as well, more of like a blues breaker tone. It's a little bit lighter. Let's go back to the neck pickup. I find it's really nice for just kind of brightening certain parts. If I need a little bit of overdrive on certain parts of the song, especially with strumming, or just some light lead work, it's a really nice thing to have. So having those two overdrives is a really nice combination to have all in one pedal. And I love the way that the E89 does that. So out of that, we go into the volume pedal. Now, some people put the volume pedal at the front. I actually used to do that for a long time. I'm trying it out this way. It doesn't make a huge difference in terms of any like volume swells or anything like that. But I'm fine with it this way. I'm fine with the other way. It doesn't really matter so much. So from the volume pedal, we are heading back to the amp, getting the preamp and kind of all the drive that happens of having a tube amp. Then it's coming back through, first through the organizer, then through my 2 delay and the reverb pedal there. So the organizer, a lot of times people will take their octave effect and put it in the front. I find the organizer does a really good job of tracking on either side. And I just kind of like the way the drive kind of dirties up the effect here. So this essentially, if you look at the organizer here on the kind of the top left side, you've got the up octave, the down octave. Choir will allow you to take those even further. But anyway, here's the basic sound. Choir. Back off. Amounts. Also tracks really well with chords. Great with volume swells. So anyway, that's where I get all my kind of octave effects. I don't do a ton with octave effects. I know people like to use pogs and that sort of thing. Any of those things will work. I like the organizer. I just like the way it's very musical to me. Next, the latest addition is the Capistan D-Tape Echo by Strymon. Now this has been my dream delay pedal along with the Dispatch Master. I'm going to talk about those in a second. Essentially the Capistan has generally just been out of my price range. However, I was finally going to bite the bullet and buy one more delay pedal. I've been kind of using different ones from companies. And I was going to buy my own, and I actually happened to find some old cash from my old band that was kind of had been set aside for tips. So I took my other bandmates' stuff and I divvied that out, and then I had enough to buy the Capistan. But I couldn't be happier with the pedal. The tones on it are amazing. I love the way the delay fits in. It doesn't stand out too much. I can get a lot of different stuff out of it. It sounds like this. Lots of different things that you can do with that pedal. Once again, that's another one that's going to need a whole video just to explain everything about the pedal if you've got one and you want to play with it. But having 2 delays is really helpful. I'll talk about that in a second. The Dispatch Master is what I use mainly for reverb and also for delay. Sometimes I like to use just that alone. Sometimes I like to combine them. It just depends on the tone that we're looking for. But the thing that I love about the Dispatch Master is the way the delay interacts with the reverb. You can kind of crank the mix up here. We'll give a listen to this. It's not great for those really digital delay, kind of when if you want kind of that U2 tone or kind of those real sparkly kind of sounds. It's not the best for it. However, I love it adds a real nice atmosphere to the guitar. And then finally, I like to combine two delays a lot of times, really mainly to get that galloping tone. And the way that you get that is like this. I've essentially turned my dispatch master with a quarter note delay. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's going to mainly handle the length as well as kind of the first one. And then I have the El Capistan going into that one at a dotted eighth note delay with the mix turned all the way up. Sounds like this. The key is that the repeats stay low enough so they don't kind of start running into each other. So that's it. That's what you see on my board. I'm going to go into some more detail on some of those pedals, just kind of giving them their own video because there's kind of so much that's going on with them. And when I explain them in the tone sections, I want you to understand what I'm meaning. Now, let me just be very clear. You don't need to have all this stuff. You can play worship songs with just your guitar. You don't even need an amp half the time. And really, it's just a question of how far you want to take the tones that you're making. Now, if you're going to be playing in a full band and you're trying to mimic some of the tones that you're hearing on these records, having stuff like this is a big help. You know, I've always been a proponent of keeping things really simple, keeping things within your budget. Like I said, the El Capistan has been on my wish list forever. And I was finally able to get it because I found some extra cash, all right? So don't run out and break the bank if you don't have to. Just, but if you've got it, you know, make sure you take the time, pick something that you like. A lot of people like analog, some people like digital, some people like modeling. There's all kinds of stuff that goes out there. This is just what I'm using. I wanted you to get a sense of what you're seeing in all the videos.